going to be able to sell $35,000,
Right.
$1,000 sponsorships, to be
I think
honest
they
with
can do
that.
it.
But,
I think they can do it.
well, they might be able to. They felt confident they could. So, and again, like I said, I had some very respected people in the community, and Pat Romeo, Joe Vino, people whose opinions I respect very, very much, that, were opposed to it, and I understand that. And I know Cliff is very opposed to it as well, and I respect that. So I'm willing to try it for that.
Are there limitations where it's just the corporate name, or can you put $10 off?
No,
all
no,
North
no,
Reading
no.
High
It
School
would be,
schools?
it would be basically.
They would have a logo on there.
It would be a logo,
Right.
company name.
Company name, that's
Yeah,
it.
logo and a company.
And we also, and I will let Cliff speak in a minute, but I just want to point out that in that policy on corporate business benefactor sponsorship, we clearly state that signs that promote the use of drugs, alcohol, tobacco, or firearms, promote hostility, disorder, or violence, attacks or demeans an ethnic, racial, gender, or religious group, supports a specific religion, promotes or opposes any political candidates or ballot proposition, or inhibits the functioning of any school. Signs of that type won't be allowed.
Bottom line is we have final
Right,
say over
we
anything
have
that
final
goes up
say
there.
over any sign.
that's
Yeah,
the
the
deal,
school
yeah.
committee,
Just put anything.
Yeah.
right, the school committee,
final
every
say.
sign has to be reviewed by Kathy at a minimum.
Well, I want to know, if we go ahead with this, I want to know how much of a police person you feel about proving these signs and what position that puts you in, because that was one of the questions
Right.
that I had going forward, like, you're going to be checking in signs for day in, day out of people
I
who
think we
wanna-
need to be very specific regarding our criteria.
Yeah.
For what goes on these banners if in fact this moves forward. So that we're not second guessing, because I often turn to Carl and I say, do you think this fits? So we need to be very clear about what those expectations are.
Cliff?
Yeah, we had a discussion about this, as I recall, it was like in April,
Yes.
May, maybe. And we had a letter from our council, and the council said that this is not permitted under our town bylaw, in their opinion. And it is also not permitted under our policies. It's not yet time for maybe it is time for the policy subcommittee to give a report. But the policies that we have are the policy on advertising, dated 1987 in an earlier town council memorandum on this subject. They said, well, that's old, that doesn't count. Basically, that's, if I'm translating that a little bit, but that's basically what they said. And the fact is that the current MASC policy, the example policy, is almost the same as ours. And it happens also that Linfield's and Andover's essentially the same as ours. So that policy is in fact current and consistent. My objection has been really twofold. One is that my feeling all along is that it did not meet sign bylaw, part of the zoning bylaw. And my suggestion was that that needs to be fixed fixed in front of the town with town action on it as a zoning issue before these signs are put up. That's because what that has is a very, very broad impact on the community. That we start putting up a row of signs, and these are in fact signs, they're banner signs, but they're signs. You put up a row of signs that are all different, that are 15 square feet under the 16 square feet maximum that is permitted under the bylaw. And you put them up in a row on one site in a residential zoned area. That doesn't patch with the zoning bylaw. Now, I understand the building inspector has some prerogative in this, but the building inspector's prerogative on it may be eclipsed by the Board of Appeals or the land court or some other
Yeah, just,
extent.
and so you know, we did discuss that at athletic subcommittee, and we did discuss the real possibility, because we do have, April 6, 2010, the building inspector has told us that he believes that these signs are appropriate. So what we said at that at the meeting athletic subcommittee was, we have the official opinion ruling from the building inspector, but I wouldn't say we fully expect, maybe we do fully expect it would be challenged.
That would probably be a good expectation.
Yeah, so, so I'm not denying what you're saying about the bylaws, but what we use was, you know, what we have at hand right now.
Sure.
And again, we approved it at the subcommittee so we could get it to the school committee.
Right, and no action can be taken until the signs go up, so.
Right.
You know,
So what
you're gonna get the signs up, and then there'll be a period of time after that, the signs will be up,
And
and
they'll be
then they
challenged.
may end up by coming down.
Right.
But
What
that's,
happens if the signs don't go up? Who's going to pay for the maintenance of the field?
But they'll
Continue to
continue to try to raise funds from other sources. Right, this is one,
fundraiser that
Right.
they want to utilize to supplement other fundraisers that they have going, and they're constantly doing things to raise money.
in my view also, you know, I'm anxious for us, for the community to be able to avail itself of all kinds of other means of getting support. And my view is that sponsorship monies are fungible. And if they're not applied toward banners, they can be applied toward something else. They could buy up more stones for the walkway or something like that. There are other ways of producing those funds. But if we start putting up a row of banners, then pretty soon there'll be a row of banners on the fence at the baseball
see, that's,
field.
Not without our permission, they
that cannot
won't be.
happen, because this is not, we did discuss, well, we don't think it can happen, I'll say, because this is no longer school property, we have to remember that. This is not school property.
But we have a memorandum of understanding.
Correct,
on it.
it's no
And-
longer school property, we have control over many aspects of it
Right.
still, but all the other properties are still school property.
Right.
And they can't, it's not allowed on school property. This is not school property. So we think, I feel strongly that we could exempt the other school properties.
Once on the slope, then we need to raise money, and not this committee, but the next committee comes out and changes the policy.
That's always the prerogative
Right.
of the
And
next committee.
puts up
Cliff.
banners all along every fence that's out there.
But Cliff, that's the
and-
whole, that's
Right.
the whole purpose of it. The prerogative of every committee is to do that. We can't enact policies in perpetuity here
Right.
based on our beliefs. I mean,
But-
that's something that's,
I mean, I don't think,
That is the basis for having policies.
but the policies
that
can be
it
changed by
continues.
subsequent. You make the policy, you can change the
Sure.
policy. I've always maintained that, you know, so if new members come along, they can change the policy based on the current state of events or their own personal point of views.
and
So we can't establish something now that's gonna last forever.
I'll add that I support the concept. However, if the rec committee comes in here, rec commission comes in on the 6th, and they have that mock-up with 35 signs, and I'm not really crazy about the look of it, I could have second thoughts. I mean, with 8 or 9 signs that they showed us, even John Bernard, who is not a strong supporter of this whole idea of, and said if he had his way, if you didn't have to raise funds, he'd say, I really don't want to do this. But he said it's not offensive at all. I don't want to speak for John, but he did make that statement. He's not a big supporter of, you know, and to Cliff's point, I agree that we don't want signs on every school and every fence and that we own, but I'm sure also that former school committee members in Peabody didn't expect that they'd be sending home advertisements on the back of notices to kids, which I would hope we wouldn't
Yeah.
ever have to stoop to.
And again, all we do is we wanted to bring this to the
Right,
committee.
bring it to
We
the
made it
committee.
clear to the subcommittee, the other members of the subcommittee, that we wanted the school committee to make a decision on this.
Yeah,
So that's
I mean,
what
I
we-
think we have to.
And to go back a little bit here, there are people in the community that are concerned about how will this look.
Right. That's right.
I'm less worried about how it will look than whether it meets the requirements of the law. You know, we are a nation of laws, and we can't just get blowing through them. And again, if we change the zoning bylaw, specifically the sign bylaw, so that it allowed this, then that's fine.
Well-
Then we don't have to worry about that element of it. The other element I have a concern on is that these signs, as I understand where they will go, will be observed principally, not from Park Street, because you won't be able to see what's on them very well from Park Street, but you would be able to see them from the field. And you won't be able to see them from the stands. Where will you be able to see them? You'll see them from the field and the track where the kids are.
Well, that brings back the whole sponsorship part of this thing as opposed to an advertising. If you were gonna advertise, you wouldn't put them there. So it's more of somebody contributing something, and like anything else, getting some recognition for it, and we put a sponsorship up. And I just wanna clarify something. If the building inspector had said to us this was in violation of
Right.
the bylaw, we wouldn't be doing this. The
Right.
building inspector is the person that has jurisdiction over this right now.
Right.
The person that has jurisdiction over this is saying it's legal. If they said it wasn't legal, or if the Board of Appeals at some point in time makes that determination, then obviously we're not going to endorse it.
Right.
Well, I haven't anything else to say on it at this point.
I
So-
do.
Okay, I do, before you do, I wanna ask, one of the things I'm wondering is, I don't wanna make this a public hearing at our next meeting, but there may be residents that want to be heard on this, and I'm just wondering if we can't accommodate that at our meeting, set aside
I think we absolutely should.
half an hour
Yeah, I think we should
to
do
have
that.
public input on this. I'd like to do that, because I think the residents who either oppose or support it should be heard at our meeting.
I agree, and one thing I wanna suggest is that,
You okay with that?
I mean, each member here represents different constituencies. We know different people in town. We come from different walks of life. I was 9 years old when our advertising policy went into effect. We've learned a lot more about the effect of
I
advertising.
haven't had that policy for 40 years. Have we?
Thank you. Love you too, Jerry. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, I've read the policy because of our last discussion about this, but, the constituents who come to me are people who haven't lived in this town very long and who don't have children, who are as much an important part of the community as everyone else. And they have absolutely no problem, from what I've understood. And I want to hear everyone's point of view. So my phone number is 781-424, are you writing this down, Mel? 1477. I want people to call me.
I want everybody to call.
I really do, because I would rather know what
You can
people
call.
think. I mean, if I get an email, I know this seems funny, but it isn't funny to me. This subject was so horrific to discuss the last time we chatted about it,
Really hot.
that I want to be informed before I make a vote on this topic. I have no problem with advertising. I disagree that it hurts kids by looking at a banner for a nonprofit. It hurts kids to be in an environment that doesn't promote learning. I don't see how that makes any difference, but again, that's my perspective. I don't care how it makes the town look. I come from Hanover, which is close to a town being identical to North Reading, and they allow advertising, not just sponsorship, but ads from companies everywhere in their school. And I would love to know whether that makes a difference. So, this is something, I'm glad the athletic subcommittee has brought this forward, but there are different opinions, and I want to hear what those opinions are. I've heard loud and clear from various members from our last school committee discussion about this, and I know what people think on that level. But we're hearing from the usual suspects, and I want to hear from people I have not heard from about this issue, because that matters to me. Doesn't matter what I personally think, it matters what the town thinks.
Well,
And
that
the
matters,
town is
it
diverse.
matters very much what you personally think, because there's one thing I've learned over like 14 years of elective office, it's good to get public input. You
course.
can't take a referendum. So you have to make
No,
a
but I
decision, not
want
based on
people to
10
have
or
every
14 or 20
opportunity.
voices,
Right.
but
I
on what you
understand that.
believe is
But I
correct
think-
But
to
I'm the
do.
one who gets the least amount of calls, so.
I think we do want to hear from the public.